how to value a business with statistics. So some context for me, data scientist at Theta Equity Partners, which is a startup based all over the US. We're all over the place, founded by my professors at Penn. I've been an instructor here since summer 2021, and I graduated from Penn with my degree in mathematical economics back in 2019, pre-pandemic. About Theta, this picture is a little outdated now, but it was founded in 2018 with around 12 employees, remote first, I mentioned, and then we're trying to bring in marketing, analytics, and models into the finance world to think about financial matters and stocks from the customer perspective. So I'll talk about what all that means, but bottoms up is the idea here. And I'll talk a little bit more about each of these three things, but these are really how you can do this at the customer level. We are able to use the knowledge these professors have from their research and also from their personal projects and use them in what are called BTYD models, buy till you die. I'll talk about what that means and why it's so morbid, but we're able to capture how people behave, like you and I, across entire populations and across time, also controlling for things like COVID, where that may mess with our ability to understand how your, in this case, purchase behaviors may change. The really big thing here, and I'll emphasize this throughout the presentation, is that if you have models with strong assumptions and that are reasonably founded, then you don't need that much data to come up with a strong model. You miss out on some potential insights on a parameter basis. Talk about what that means, but you can actually do really good things. So this presentation will take place through the practice of valuing a business, and specifically we'll look at Warby Parker. Warby Parker, for those who aren't sure, is a business that sells glasses like this. This is not from Warby Parker, but I'd be glasses like this. They went public a few years ago now, and when companies go public, what that means is they go on the stock market. And when that happens, they have to publish a bunch of documents that kind of show everyone what the business looks like from a health basis. And that's kind of to show that this is a reasonable business people should be investing in. And so the goal here, we want to value this business. But if you're on Robinhood, the information that you as an individual have is known by everyone. Many people believe in the rational markets hypothesis, right? Which is that if you're in the stock market, then most likely whatever price is there is the most rational price, and everything in the world that could be happening is already priced into something. So you may think there's not really an edge you can get by doing stuff like this. I'll talk about why that may not necessarily be true. And you can still bring some intellectual innovation into thinking about not just customer behavior, people behavior, but also the markets as a whole. So first, our goal is to find some data. And we're going to have to focus on public data because we don't have any private access, but also if we wanted to show the power of our model, we want to show it is publicly accessible. This is a document you can find on a government website. If you look at Warby Parker S1, you'll see this. And we'll want to look through this entire document for that kind of information. But there's a problem already here. There's 200 plus pages of information, and we need to make sure we can find what we care about specifically. Fortunately for us, we already have some idea of what we care about. The bottom line is, if we can model out how people will behave, how the customers will behave, then we will be able to find out everything else we need to know about the business. So we're going to search for customer level metrics, and we'll keep not a running tally, but accounts of the literal data points we'll be using for our model. And we'll see how powerful this model can be on less than 100 data points. Again, the idea here is we're using this model that has a lot of assumptions baked in, ones that I think are reasonable, to then project a bunch of these different metrics forwards. So first, we're going to look at active customers. What that means is these are the number of people who actually bought glasses in that time period. So if you look at the first bar, Q117, that's how many people bought glasses, unique people, to be specific, from January through I think March, for January through March. So there's only 18 data points, but we're able to use that already to start getting an idea for how many people kind of come back and buy glasses and how often they do that. Unique customers. Then we look for new customers. So beyond knowing how current people behave, we also would like to know how many people we can expect to buy glasses for the first time from us in the future. That's that new customers part. And so using some of the data here where we know the active rate of customers, those who are returning and those who are new, well, if you're new and you're active, then that's when you first made contact with them. That's when you first bought glasses. So we can use these 3 data points on a yearly basis to figure out how many new people came in the door. And again, this helps us with predicting the future for knowing how future customers will transact. These are people who've never bought glasses, but who we think will buy glasses. Next, number of orders. As you buy glasses, we want to make sure we understand how many times you purchase glasses and how often. And so here it looks like there was 1.7 million orders that everyone made in 2018. You may be asking, okay, well, how do we know that what each person does? And the answer is, from this alone, we don't. We just know that in total, there were 1.7 million orders-ish. But once we combine this information with all the other information on how many customers came in the door, how many customers came back, how many customers were uniquely here during some time period, we can start to unbundle some of these aggregate measures. Likewise, we want to know how much you actually spend on each order, right? So whether you buy expensive glasses or cheaper glasses. So here it looks like that number is increasing over time. The glasses are increasing in maybe increasing in price, or maybe something else is changing. Maybe people are buying more glasses, but it looks like in 2018, people spent roughly $160 per order. And an order can be just any number of things they bought at a transaction. Another thing we'll look at is sales retention. What this means is, let's say you buy glasses for like $100 the first time you go to Warby Parker. This will track how much in total customers have spent relative to that initial $100. So how to read this is, in the first year after you buy glasses, it looks like if you spend $100, on average, customers will have already spent $25 back, from that $100 to do something. Maybe they're fixing glasses, maybe they're buying an accessory. And if you see these 100% on the right side on the 48 months is 2 years, you can interpret this as after 2 years is when, on average, most customers will have now spent kind of what they spent in the first place. Maybe that means they bought their glasses again, because maybe glasses last 2 years. That would be how to read this. So this is important so we can track how long it takes for customers to come back again. We really value here retention. So how long customers stay until they just never buy again. This frequency, so how often they purchase from us. And then this order value, so how much they actually spend. And we can find all of that through these parameters. The modeling framework is what is called buy till you die. So a little morbid, and but it's a term in marketing. And the idea is as follows. Basically, you as an individual, right? I'll say Jonathan, right? For me, Jonathan will buy from Warby Parker at some purchase rate. So maybe I purchase from these people like once a year. Could be once every 4 years. I have some kind of rate, but I have my rate, and then Errol will have his rate. We each have different rates. Maybe Errol buys glasses once a month for whatever reason. We can capture that. We want to capture that. And the idea is that each of us is going to continue buying our glasses on average until we just stop buying glasses from this person. So maybe we just are tired of their business, maybe we move away, but at some point we model out that we just stop buying from some location. That would be when you die. So the propensities to stop buying or to die vary across the population, right? And so maybe since I'm so comfortable buying glasses every year or two, I will continue coming back every year or two pretty reliably. Maybe somebody who buys glasses every month at some point changes their behaviors and just never comes again for some reason. That would be the idea here. And all of this, the way you define the model ultimately depends on the relationship between the business and the customer. So in the glasses example, you can go to Warby Parker and buy glasses now if you want. You can do it at night. I think you can put a pre-purchase order. You can buy it whenever you want. There's no obligation from either side. That's one kind of model. That's called a non-contractual continuous relationship, because you can do it whenever and no one's bound to anyone. The opposite of this would be a contractual discrete model, right? So here you have a contract. So let's see with Spotify, you have like either an annual plan or a monthly plan. And you have certain times when you can drop or exit. Basically, at the end of the month, you can either renew your subscription or not. So that would be kind of the way we model that out here. So I mentioned this non-contractual thing. So this works for really well for even businesses like Amazon, where they don't even know if you're ever going to come back because there's no way to see that. We can do that pretty well here. And you can tease apart all these behaviors, including stuff like COVID, as well as see how people change behaviors over time. And so if you think about the customer, right? How do we know how much a business makes? Businesses make their money from customers. So if you can predict how often these customers will buy and how much they'll spend every time they buy, all the way into the future for the rest of time, first of all, you'll get the individual value of this customer. And then if you add all of their values, well, that's the value of the business. That's the bottoms up approach. You find the value of each individual customer, you add them up together, you do some accounting stuff, and then you get the value of the business. So this had a total of 41 data points. The question now, what can we do with 41 data points? That's way less than people usually talk about when talking about big models and AI models. And the idea here is we directly model out these 4 things. So we actually have 4 models, but we use all those data points mentioned above. So we talk about how many new people come in the door. That's one model. We talk about how many customers stay, how long people stay for after they first make a purchase. We talk about how many times they purchase while they still have a relationship. The second, third bullet points are one model. And the last one is how much they spend when they come in through the door. That's another model. So it's 3 models total that we estimate. The answer, how powerful is this? This is really, really powerful. On the left, on the dark, so by left, I mean the left bar, we have the darker navy color. And on the right, we have this teal color. The left side represents the actual things we got from the data. And the right side is validation on our side. We're seeing what our model would predict, given what we saw about the customers and their purchase behaviors. And so here we see that our model predictions mirror basically the actuals 1-to-1. So we're perfectly capturing how many customers will be active or purchase in 2020, how many will purchase in 2019. And on the right side, how many new customers we'll see in 2018, 2019, 2020. And the point of showing this is to show that if we're so good at doing this with 2019, 2020, then we can maybe do this really well as well for 2021, 2022. And you may be thinking, well, yes, but you saw this data, so it's kind of cheating. So technically almost yes, but the thing is when we're at least showing these diagnostics, we'll actually model our data with stuff from the past. So we actually limit our data to even show this validation for 2019, 2020. So you can think of this as already actually doing that step to make sure that this will work out out of sample. And so since we are so confident our model works when we cut down the data, the idea here is that when we actually feed it all the data, then we can trust the projections for all the future years. So more data here for orders and for how much people spend, we're capturing all of that perfectly. And so the key here is those parameters. Basically, those models give you a bunch of information on what people act like. So now that we have those model things, we can learn what people will act like and how they're behaving in the business. So this is something, for example, that was not given by the business. We got this by estimating those models and looking at parameters. So for example, here, we kind of saw this in the sales retention thing. But what this says is when you first buy from Warby Parker, you make one order. So you only buy the one time, maybe. So maybe that means you literally walk in the door once, you don't really come back throughout that year. And then it looks like it takes almost 2 entire years for people to come back and make a second order. So it looks like that story has more merit than we thought. So that's the number of orders. And then even if we look at revenues, it looks like from 200 to 400, it takes a little more than 2 years to get to that next revenue point. So it also backs up that point that it takes 2 years to buy another pair of glasses. Maybe they buy more stuff, or maybe the glasses increased in price. And that's why it costs a little more to get to that 400. And the goal here is you can also check how profitable the business is by looking at how profitable each customer is. So some metrics here. Each customer was in 2020 was worth about $125 to $176. This is after you take account the costs of stuff. And then when you think about businesses from the marketing perspective, you think about all the marketing it took for them to come in the door. And so if we compare how much they bring to the business and how much it costs to bring them to the business, we get what is called the PAF to CAC ratio or CLV to CAC ratio that tells you how profitable a business is. In this case, they get a lot of value out of these customers, even though they only come like once every 2 years, they spend a lot on those 1 to 2 years. And so that makes it really worth the investment so far in all the R&D and all the marketing that they've done. And so if you want to play around with this, we actually have a simulator on our website. And then I'll caution here that a lot of the actual price of Warby Parker, for example, is sensitive to valuation assumptions. You can change that in the stock. So the valuation assumptions here are the accounting things like the discount rate and other parameters in our model. So the idea here is you make assumptions, you add up all the customer values, and then you get the total business value. So this was an example from October at the time. So in October, Warby Parker was worth about $52. This was literally a screenshot from my Robinhood account. And our valuation at the time was 22. So at the time in October, we were expecting a true value here of about 60% lower. So since then, we have may have not heard of, but the stock market is not doing too great. A lot of tech companies, sometimes including these companies, have lowered their valuation significantly. And if you check the stock price now, I think the stock price of Warby Parker is like 10 or 11 bucks or something. You can check that with a quick Google search. So does that mean that we should buy because we think our valuation is 22? We need to refresh this analysis because this was done in like 2020. It's been 2 years since. Who knows if they've been getting better or worse at keeping their customers in check and getting more value out of them. But that would be, this would be one valid way of doing so. Again, we're analyzing from the bottom up. If you want to check these assumptions to see whether you should, or you should think, how you should think critically about the business, I have a link here for you. I can share in a second. But the idea here is, while possible, it's possible that we can have this price difference. The assumptions needed for $52 make it really hard to believe it was valued at that price. So 52 ended up being 11. So we were kind of right in that sense, but perhaps it's possible that currently the market is being a little unfair. And by market, I just mean like people on the stock market. People are being unfair to Warby Parker.